Hello and thanks for staying with us. This is Focus Nigeria. My name is Amechi Anapwe. The poverty and unemployment situation in Africa's largest democracy and most populous nation is very worrisome. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, as at 2022, about 33% of Nigerians are unemployed. More than 22% of others are underemployed. The figures for poverty do not fare better. According to the World Bank, as of 2022, about 95 million Nigerians are poverty, living below the poverty line and wallowing in poverty. Now, social scientists insist the current security situation in the country is traceable to the high poverty and unemployment situation in the country. Unfortunately, this hardly gets mentioned on our national discourse. Even when it does, it merely gets the attention of both the government and the people, including the major stakeholders. And so on our discourse today, we shall dwell on how Nigeria can deal with these twin concepts. Not very good concepts, you must admit. My guest is Senator Ikechukwu Obiorah. Thank you so much for staying with us. My guest is sitting a senator, not sitting actually, Ikechukwu Obiorah. Researched into issues of poverty and unemployment, areas that we don't usually move into. And even when we put it on discourse, it doesn't really attract much attention. But we mustn't fail to always put it on the front burner. Many believe, social scientists, that the current security situation that is worrying in Nigeria is likely due to high unemployment rate and high poverty rate. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Amechi.
So, poverty, unemployment, they go hand in hand.
Yes.
And perhaps they say Nigeria is the capital of it all. Not a good something to show off with, apparently.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for having me on the program. Nigeria is blessed with a very youthful age demographic. And that is about 75% of all Nigerians are in the age bracket of 0 to 35 year. So what that does is give us a huge arsenal of foundation to propel the economy. But unfortunately, almost 60% of the working age youth are either unemployed or underemployed. So our youth bulge, because that is a youth bulge, a major, a disproportionate share of the population, comprising children and young adults, and with accentuated by the fact that the children rapidly grow into young adults. So that actually should be a demographic advantage, but is also a peril if it's not well managed.
A disadvantage.
A huge disadvantage. But in our own case, what we see right now is disadvantage. Because when you have 60% of the working age youth, that means 36 million young adults, either unemployed or underemployed. What you have is a catastrophe on your hands. You have social tension, political unrest, insecurity. And the main reasons why this is so is, 1, illiteracy, 2, ineffective education, 3, low skill levels, 4, the sectoral weaknesses in manufacturing, that's the employment drivers, manufacturing, industrialization, agriculture, and then the poor policy prescriptions, and of course mismanagement of resources. So in order to tackle the problems we have to segment the solutions. The very first one will be education. We have to redo our education strategy. The Brookings Institution came out empirically to say that for such a country like Nigeria with such skills gap and education gap, it will take 100 years to catch up. 100 years. And
does Nigeria fall into that category?
Yes. That's why we're a low-income country. And Rebecca Winthrop of the same institution led some researchers, but they came up with, in their book, Leapfrogging Inequality, how to model education to make the youth thrive. They worked out some scenarios that will help, and they came up with a framework, essentially targeting access to education, quality of education, and the relevance of education. What the education we have in Nigeria today is glamorized in the conventional sense. The technical education that should equip the kids with technical skills
and know-how
and practical skills and all that is completely neglected. You will notice that in the whole educational spectrum, we have only 644 technical institutions. That is technical colleges, polytechnics, specialized institutions, 644. Compare that with 23,000.
Have we really appreciated where we have found ourselves? Have we understood the fundamentals, the basics, the foundation, like you're propounding? If yes or no, have we reacted adequately the way we should react?
Well, if we understand what the situation we are faced in, then we are not reacting at all, because our education system is basically theorized. There's no practical skills. You know that vocationalization was supposed under the education national education policy to be introduced at the junior secondary school. That is introduction of practical skills and know-how, and infusing the pupils and students with that optimism towards career skills, being career skilled craftsmen, technicians, technologists, in order to fight frightful unemployment. But that hasn't happened. As a matter of fact, the national ambition is that basic education school leavers 86% of basic education school leavers would transcend and go when they move up to the higher level, they will go to technical schools. 86%. But what we have less than 3% doing that. Because
the bulk going into
the bulk of the students are going into the normal ones. When you ask a person what do you do, you say business administration and all that. Let me tell you, one certified technician in today's Nigeria, under the platform of demand and supply and importance, one certified technician, a plumber, a technician, is more important than 3 lawyers put together. I'm a lawyer. So I say that
in terms of contributions to the economy,
with the economy we have today. As a matter of fact, the Korean register, that's the Council of Registered Engineers of Nigeria, their register shows that you have 62,000 as at July 2021. You had 62,000 engineers. But technologists, 6,000. Technicians, less than 1,000.
And it should have been the reverse.
Craftsmen, about 2,000. You know, that is like, you know, the Great Pyramid of Giza. That is like turning it upside down. You know, the pyramid is like this, but in this way it's like this. Because
without foundation, without base.
Foundation. Because 62, the ratio globally, the ratio of craftsmen to engineer, to an engineer is 20. Well, when you have one engineer, you have to have 20 craftsmen. When you have one engineer, you have to have there are 7 technicians. When you have one engineer, you have to have 4 technologists.
So the step.
So just bear with me.
Okay.
So that when you have 62,000 engineers on that record, you ought to have 1,250,000 craftsmen. But what do we have? We have 2,000. When you have 62,000 engineers on that roll, you ought to have 450,000 technicians. But what do we have? 937. When you have 62,000 engineers, you ought to have 250,000 technologists. But what do you have? 6,000. So that will give you the proper perspective that the technical know-how and the manpower will require to diversify, create jobs, and for the people to be able to self-employ and get jobs.
Clearly absent. So it presupposes that we have to urgently and perhaps radically
Yes.
change our education structure.
Yes, we
but
need.
how do we do that?
Yes.
When, for instance, the polytechnics that are supposed to and monotechnics impact these skills on citizens are being converted to universities.
Oh, okay. So they say that's a major problem. It is because we have an institutionalized perception of inferiority on regarding technical institutions. That is, it is institutionalized. As a matter of fact, Cookie's commission, as far way back as independence, came up with a salary differential that put a university graduate at a particular level and a polytechnic graduate at less.
Entry level for university graduate, grade 8.
Yes.
Level 8 for a polytechnic 7.
So and the polytechnic now has a glass ceiling beyond which you cannot go.
Yes.
And that's a level.
You can only be an executive officer in the federal service.
Okay, but if you look at it, the polytechnic graduate, the role that is probably grounded, is much more important than 1,000 the ordinary conventionally trained graduates like lawyers, like us. So we have a major problem on that. But under my plan, we are going to now redo that to glamorize technical education through mass sensitization, mobilization, public campaign, and incentives. We're going to incentivize people to go to technical schools. And we're going to set up a National Education Rehabilitation Task Force, an internationally composed task force that will be charged with rehabilitating all technical schools in Nigeria. All technical schools, private technical schools. Do
we need a task force for that, or
yes.
do we ask the department in the Federal Ministry of Education
let me
join with other departments at the state level, Ministries of Education?
We have had too many a ministry. What we require now is action. Well, like when I appeared on Arise last time when I was discussing my anti-corruption plan, I made it clear that we are in a steep decline regarding our fiscal fundamentals. We don't have money. We are almost broke.
Revenue crisis.
So what we require is we need international assistance. And to get the international assistance, we have to globalize. We have to open up. This nonsense about sovereignty, when you see somebody that will help you to do something, you say no, because he's not a Nigerian. It's atavistic and ancient. If we set up a task force, we're going to ask UNESCO and UNDP to make their own inputs in the task force.
That's attracting talents and special skills.
Yes, and you see, once you do that, once you have an international task force, the donor agencies will take interest. Because first of all, they know you're doing best practices. They know that you are well-meaning. And they know that whatever money comes out there will be due processed. We're not going to steal the money. So under my plan, we need to set up that task force. And the president will put the weight of his office, which Teddy Roosevelt would back in the days called the bully pulpit. He needs to put the weight of his office to drive that process and enlist public support and donors' interest. It will cost billions of dollars to rehabilitate our polytechnics and then infuse proper teaching staff and then the equipment. Because bringing up one certified technician is much more expensive because you need equipment, you need labs and all.
And that's another problem. Yeah. The few technical-based education institutions we have, are they equipped? What of the teachers? No, are they well qualified to impact the knowledge?
You see, that's where my plan comes in. That under my plan, we have a task force. Once we have an international task force to rehabilitate these schools, then they will hire. And if in my book, How to Lift Nigeria Out of Poverty, I made it clear that we should no longer be concerned with nationality regarding teachers, particularly technical teachers. We're going to cast as wide a net as possible to the world, to Asia, to Africa, to get...
That's what the rest of the world is doing.
Yeah, that's what we'll...
Attracting special talents.
Yes. So that is the educational part of it. Now...
but can you afford to pay them if you attract them?
I'm telling you that once you put up that task force, an international task force, and the president drives it, goes to the foreign capitals to sell it. Let me tell you, Nigeria is a very strategic country as regarding the Committee of Nations. Anything, we are notionally the giant of Africa. You see, the international community is much worried with the state of insecurity. So anything they see that we're going to do well, to alleviate the situation, they will get involved. But we have to set up the parameters properly. And that is setting up an international task force. And I've worked it out under my plan on how that will be done. But we must be globalized in our thinking to achieve that. Now, it's because of want of time, I must let you know that getting the pupils and the students proper education, technical education, will solve the problem to an extent. But it will not completely solve all. It will not eliminate. It will not eliminate the problems. You have 700,000 graduates of all works coming out onto the per annum coming out onto the labor
being empty to God knows where.
And then you see, and then there's nowhere to go because they lack practical skills. There's nothing. So what do they do? What you ask him, what do you do? You say, I studied business administration, but there's no white collar jobs and all that and all that. And you see that what he has.
There has to be a business for it to be administered.
You see that our public roles of labor is now been dogged by racketeering. We're selling employment and all that. So you know. So we have to give practical skills to our students in order for them to endure and come out.
Well, what you're saying in effect, as we get set to go on a break, is that the normal classification of white collar and blue collar jobs. The blue collar should be at the base. They should be more in number. And the white collar up just
that stratification perhaps may not capture it properly.
Okay.
I used that analogy only in relation to the engineering. But what I am saying is that we will have to give much more accent. We have to give much more importance, much more glamour in order to attract talent to the technical world, because that is what will drive the economy. But that is not where it ends. We have to get starting point. That's a starting point. We have to get the economy moving. Okay, so you see, the main employment drivers in any economy is industrialization and manufacturing. But in Nigeria, they're absent. We are totally
okay, let's go on that break now. When we come back, we'll look at practicalities about how we can get this going. Because as it were, it's Nigeria's biggest challenge. Yes. Creating jobs and pulling people out of poverty. Yes. Other countries are doing it with varied success. Stay with us.
Did you know that AIT's social media handles have all changed? If you are one of the millions of our followers on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, this is introducing to you AIT's new official and rebranded social media handles. Like or follow us now on our Facebook page, Official AIT Live. If you're on Twitter, switch to our new handle at Official AIT Live and activate the notification button to get breaking news and updates on the go. For exclusive short videos and photo news, follow our Instagram account at Official AIT Live. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Official AIT Live, and enjoy live streaming of news and your favorite programs, where you can also watch our broadcast materials at your own convenience. Note that Official AIT Live is the only authentic social media profile name with all the handles on our website ait.live, with a notification prompt to accept and receive breaking news and updates on the go. Log on to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube platforms on your smartphone, tablet device, laptop, and desktop to follow us now. AIT.live. On air, online.
Senator Ikechukwu Obiorah has been with us and is taking a look at two phenomena that has been at the base of and perhaps the bane of Nigeria's society, unemployment and poverty. And he believes if we take the right steps, of course, we'll deal with this problem. We'll spend more on theories and laying the foundations and the philosophical underpinnings. So let's go to practice now. Who should drive this process? The government manages the education sector, so they should have some form of responsibility in retooling the foundations of our education. But the industrialization part, the manufacturing part, perhaps in terms of giving teeth to practical expression, how do we achieve that? Well,
the major problem with our industrial experience and journey so far is that, right out of independence, we adopted the import substitution industrialization strategy, where the state leads the effort. And that didn't work out so well because of the inefficiencies that dog public ownership and management.
Does that include the backwards integration?
Well, backward integration is an aspect of a policy where the supply chains are brought in such a way as to create synergy. What I'm talking about is that the problems we have that has militated against Nigeria's industrialization progress are two major folds. The first one is non-development of the human capital stock that will drive industrialization. The second one is huge infrastructural deficits. Of course, there you have other issues like corruption and insecurity. Non-development of human capital stock, part of our discourse now on education is that. But beyond that, the import substitution industrialization strategy denied us of private sector-led investment, and that came with, of course, nepotism, corruption and all that, and then they led to the floundering of most of those corporations, the refineries, the car companies, the Anamcos, and all that. But it had a singular advantage that we didn't use, because the government. Since the government was the owner or majority stake owner in all those corporations, the government could have used that to drive on-the-job training of Nigerians. If I had done that, we would have had people who would teach the next generation would teach. But that wasn't done. We were sitting pretty. We had oil money. We transplanted the corporations here in turnkey. We even brought in people from abroad to sweep the ground. So we did not in any way try to train our people. So that is a major problem. We did not take benefit of that system to get our people trained.
Even perhaps at internship level?
Yes, internship on the job and off the job. Right now, I've worked it out. I participated in the Senate when we passed the Nigeria Oil and Gas Development Content, and that was
as the local content commission.
Yes, and that was to infuse, to make sure, to deliberately, to systematically develop capacities of Nigerians and capabilities, and all. So for the first time, we gave a legal framework to that sector that will bring in training. We will bring in capacity development. But unfortunately, when I read, because I've been following that, I participated very effectively in the passage of that law, so I've been following that. I see that the Content Development Board, they are much more concerned in the quantum of contracts given to Nigerians, which is correct, which should be that concerned, and the material resources deployed. But that will only go so far. The critical fundamentum of it all is in capabilities, in know-how, in knowledge intensity.
Skills and competence.
Yes, in knowledge intensity. That hasn't been done. We have to.
Or perhaps as much as you would
I've written a couple of times to them that they will need to change course. And the government hasn't also leveraged its immense power of procurement in the private sector to insist that Nigerians be trained. Julius Berger has earned about $50 billion so far now in various contracts for the number of years they've been in Nigeria. But how many engineers have they trained? No. Do you blame them? No. any contract process ought to have infused in that a condition that you put a spreadsheet to see how many people that will be trained under that, and then a different department ought to have been set up to monitor that training.
And it's happening with the Chinese railway construction
okay,
projects in Nigeria.
So if you read my book, you see that when I came to railways, I say Nigerian railways, and I say problems. I say 100% foreign supply, because there is nothing. Before in 1964, when we took over from the British, the Nigerian railways had about 240 locomotives. You had 450 wagons and a whole lot of. By Nigerians took over, 13 years after, the total number of equipment in our inventory was 15. Everything gone down. Lagos, Guru collapsed. Port Harcourt, Maiduguri collapsed.
Lagos to Kano.
Okay, so you see, so the same reason why our refineries collapsed. Public ownership and management on one hand, and then lack of technical know-how, indigenous capacity also affected our railways. So now we've restarted. You would expect that the very first thing the government will do will be to partner with the universities to set up the railway course, the rail system courses that will produce engineers trained in rail design, railroad design, railroad construction and design, signaling, highway.
Is it not what the Minister of Transportation was trying to achieve when he insisted and included it in the railway contract, the construction of a transportation university in Daura? Okay,
so the minister, yes, that is that, but you see, that is too late. We have universities already. You have universities already. All you need is to create a department, and one with 210 million people in Nigeria, and with the debt of know-how. One university will not be able to produce all the technologies, all the experts we require.
It has a starting point.
Well, no. What you need to do with our costume next to nothing will just be to work to set up a curriculum, and that will take off. And then again, you're doing that. The university we're setting up is good, but we're doing that after the fact. I am saying that before the award of contract in 1987 for Ajokuta, for Itakwe Ajokuta rail track. That's our first standard gauge. We ought to have the university undergraduates in place studying design and construction of rail. Yes, and then we ought to have rail technician courses in the polytechnics, studying how to manufacture rail tracks, steel rails, guard rails, turnouts, ballasts, you name it all. So that as soon as the contract now takes off, you have those who you have already trained now joining the force to receive practical training. That didn't happen, and it has left us import dependent on every facet of the Nigerian railway system. Okay, so the university that is being built. Why wouldn't you just go to in Katsina there? There are polytechnics, there are other higher institutions. Take a slice of that place and start the program, because the structure is not the school. It is the impartment of knowledge, the process, the system, the platform. That is what you require. So that when finally the structures come up, you just move everybody into the structure. But how many years were we spending? And you know the Chinese are one of the most cunning people. When they go into a country, they go with the people that make the tea. They make their tea. They have no
creating just promoting their own national interest.
Yes.
So it's not for us also to do our bit. I also did a book where I insisted, similar to what you said, streamlining local content and local technology into our projects process, contractual process.
Yes. That is very, very important. So we need to infuse that. And you see, in railway systems, we are not competing. Nobody is participating. In the maritime, it's also the same problem. So we went and quickly grabbed, instead of asking the palm line and the partners then in the Nigerian National Shipping Company to up their stake, and we sell down our own, or keep it on a level that would allow us to sell our own. The government selling its own stake to Nigerian private sector. What Nigeria did was to buy up the palm line and Edda Stemster and then turned it into a 100% government agency. What do you have? You have the same problem of inefficiency of public management without know-how, and the national line collapsed. And as soon as it collapsed, that has messed up everything we are doing in the maritime sector. We are not able to train cadets because you require seafarers training on board ships, ocean-going vehicles, ships, but we don't have. So you have thousands of young people who have been churned out from Oron, and all the
Maritime Academy.
Yes, and you have thousands of them churned out. They are driving Okada on the street. So NIMASA now comes up with a program that will train them abroad. How many can you train abroad? And right now, if you check how much they spent over $140 million spending, trying to train these people abroad. So what it does to us is that we have lost about $20 billion that we ought to have earned if we had our national shipping line. On yearly basis, the cost of the freight cost, Nigeria generates as between $7 to $10 billion in freight cost. We've lost that. We have not been able to train our own people. Even in cabotage trade, that is the inland shipping and all that, that reserved for Nigerians. We have just about 3,000 people that qualified, but NIMASA estimates that we will need 50,000. So what you have is Nigerian jobs, because we know what we're talking about is unemployment. Nigerian jobs that ought to come, that already been reserved for us, we are not able to do that because we are not qualified. We're not qualified. So now, these are the problems, but the solution, talking about railway system, we have to do that. We have to set up the schools. We have to get 3, 4, 5 universities to do that. Remember that
to complement the
transportation. The total number of rail track into square route kilometers we anticipate right now to do everything is about 3,000. It's about 7,000. That's if we did everything. Lagos,
Kano,
Maradi,
Port Harcourt, Enugu, Maiduguri.
Yes, and then Lagos. No. Lagos, Onitsha, Port Harcourt. That's the coastal line. If you did all that, you have 7,000. But now, given our population and our geographical dimension of 925,000 square kilometers, we need about 25,000 route kilometers of rail tracks. How are we going to? That will cost about $90 billion. How are we going to do that? If we don't have the technical know-how, we have to do a technical know-how, and we have to manufacture steel in order to get it done. And that brings me up to yes, it brings me up to the infrastructure, huge infrastructure deficit. Yeah, we are lacking infrastructure in virtually all aspects of our life. And Moody's came up with a report that we need to spend. I think that's overboard. That we need to spend $100 billion over
the Nigerian National Infrastructure Plan also specify the amount to be spent to close the deficit.
Okay, but I am saying that there is no chance that we can ever do that unless we took care of 2 very important items. One is power, and the other one is steel. I've talked about the development of human capital stock that will drive the process. But we ought to have power, electricity, and we have to have steel. Okay, so in power, where are we in power? The privatization that took place in 2005, that started in 2005 with the law, and
the Reform Act.
The Reform Act that took place 2005, and then finally was crystallized in 2012-13. it was a beautiful step in the right direction, but it hasn't delivered. The reason is that we are running away from the problem. We are in denial. We think that we can produce power for 10 naira and sell it for 5 naira and get power.
But the multi-year tariff structure is now in place, and almost the subsidies has almost given way.
See, the thing is, what you're talking about is investment. It's investment. If you do not drive investment, if there's no investment in the sector, then you will get nothing. There's no investment in the sector because the investor...
Public or private?
Private investment, because the investor is looking for his profits, meaning that the cost must be reflective, the tariff must be cost reflective.
Before investors can come
in. So in the value chain, there is none. There's none.
Few investments here and there.
No.
Transmission generation.
No. I'm not talking about investment. I'm saying that none of in the value chain, none of the tariffs in the value chain is cost reflective.
Okay.
So the generation, they are just managing. Distribution, not cost reflective, and transmission, no tariff whatsoever. So we are dealing with dead assets. Okay, so but if it becomes cost reflective, it will do so much damage to the purchasing capability of poor people and low income people. So normally what you should do is make it cost reflective, attract investment, and then subsidize.
With these enormous social consequences.
Yeah, how do you mean?
Making it cost reflective. Who are those that are going to pay? Those that are already deep neck in
not the poor people. You already have the tariffs of the poor people. The poor people and low income Nigerians. You already know. You know that by consumption. You know that by consumption. If your consumption rate is from 1 naira to 3 naira, that you're in that spectrum, meaning that it will be fixed. You'll be paying the same thing you've been paying. Any cost reflection will not affect the poor person or the low income, even slightly above the low income. But there is no way. Gas, the generation, we have a major problem of generation, and the problem of generation is problem of gas, because you have in the mix thermal production taking up to 90%. That means gas enabled. So without gas, how are they going to produce? The managing director of Nigeria NIPP came out and said
that's integrated power project.
Yes, he came out and said that what they require is 1 billion cubic feet of gas, but what they're able to get is just about 15%.
A huge shortfall.
So how are they going to produce?
So a multifaceted problem. Let's quickly take a look at our Twitter feed to see what our viewers are reacting. Akwaji Lokba says, your guest has a good initiative when it comes to technical education, and his solutions should be carried out by the government of the day. It's only the government that can carry out. Begin to implement some of what you see,
because that will require law. Most of the plans will require the National Assembly to pass it and the President to sign it. So the government has a major role to play in that. Very, very important.
Legislative wise.
Yeah, legislatively and on executive plank too, because the President has to sign it. Now, should I go back to the power, because it's a very important...
no, because we don't have time. Maybe you talk of still quickly.
Okay.
So the two critical elements needed.
Okay. So the problem of power is not just that it's not cost reflective. The participants, the operators in the sector are undercapitalized. They have no capital. The generating companies have
after they claim they had the financial technical
no, they don't.
capacity.
The generating companies and the discos. You had the president lambast how the process came about. So they don't have capacity. So I've worked out a plan that will create a power and steel fund in which every Nigerian must invest. Any person that works in the Nigerian economic space must invest. It doesn't matter whether you expatriate or not. You must invest, or you pay the alternative as tax. You must invest so that we can harvest and mobilize huge resources. with which we can now invest.
Perhaps through the contributory pension?
No. This is going to be a private sector-led profit-for-profit fund. That is, and it's going to be managed, say, by the alter egos of the first 15 companies by capitalization on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, so that we can mobilize in a couple of years as much as 15 to 16 trillion. But since it's now cost reflective, anybody who puts money there will make money. The only thing is that we must force us to save to make money, so that we can have the wherewithal to tackle the problems, because these people in the power sector now, they don't have problems. And then still talking about power. I'm so sorry.
1 minute to go.
Okay. Still talking about power. There are certain discrepancies. The MDAs are owing the discos 250 billion now. Yeah. The discos are owing the government about 1.5 trillion. So it gives us government the opportunity to the net off what they are owing MDAs, and then use the remaining one, and convert that remaining one into equity, meaning that the core investors in this discos that are not capitalized, their stake will go down, and the government will have the leverage.
The government that had lower equity will now become the majority.
Yes, but it's not going to. The government is not going to get. The government will now sell it to this fund to
be managed by who? That's another.
No, I'm telling you. The first 15 companies by capitalization in the stock exchange. They will be the directors. That is the alter egos, the chairman. So that maybe Dangote automatically becomes the chairman, followed by Boa and whoever in that order.
The first 15 first 15. Thank you. So I have to thank you so much. It's rare when Nigerians sit down to put these things together. So most of the time we put so much attention on politicking and all that, not giving the desired attention to solving these fundamental basic problems. We have to commend you for taking our time to do that. And we believe that someday, sometime, it will come to fruition. Thank you so much.
It should.
Thank you so much for joining us, Senator Ikechukwu Obiorah. You heard him. Researched extensively on issues of poverty and unemployment in Nigeria. Thank you so much for being part of the program. My name is Amechi Anapwe. Have a good weekend.